Righty-ho. Welcome to about the fifth, oops a daisy, the fifth begging bowl, right, in fact, I'm going to do this first. Begging bowl pitch that I've kind of roughed up over the last 3 or 4 months. I haven't done anything with any of them yet. And there are probably ones better. Now, I'm always having to do 2 things at the same time. There are probably better ones than this. By the way, I have still the last 2 days of a cold. Quite a heavy head cold. But, right, now, I've written there. You see, this is the most important thing. I am the most together person in the world. I have lots of bits of video and many, many photographs. I've yet to do anything. That's a second-hand hard drive I bought 2 or 3 months ago, but is a bit dicky. So, double, treble, ideally, backing up of everything is the most important thing in life. Now, this is just sums up it sums up what I have to share. Let me try and get to the point. That's not reality, obviously. I've lived like this, technically for 2.5 years, but actually for 3 years. The summer of 2022, oh, wow. Let me be crystal clear. My material, my lifestyle is nothing about looking for pleasure. It's not about pleasure seeking, although it is a pleasure to sit here as long as there aren't many tourists about, and it's extraordinary. There are virtually no tourists around. It's Easter Friday. Society is in trouble. Not me, ever. Yes, it's beautiful, the grandeur of nature, the sublime is the correct way of sort of thinking about it, although nobody can think in such terms. Right, now I have 3 or 4 little bits of film, better ones that I made January, February actually, thinking I've got really useful material. Now I think a lot about the right words to use. Useful material. I'm going to start to try and get funding for it is for writing and thinking and kind of keeping kind of video diaries. It's not about the journey. It's not about the places being. It's about the mental processes gone through. Evolutions is the right word, although some people regale at that word. It's about keeping it simple, the things to share. But there are genuinely alive things going on in my life. Might not look like it. If I remember, I'll mention 1 or 2. 2, really. So I have lots of useful things to share because although I don't actually enjoy people in Britain at all, really, I act always as if I'm going to find useful allies, people who would like to collaborate on things like writing about how on earth do we really reach people such that they live far less materialistically. I mean, I happen to be, I only came to Cornwall just trying to link up with one particular person who's not British, but I'm astonished, not much astonishes me, the total materialism, the defining oneself via there's a kind of the new Tesla, the white car. This is the countryside. In theory, having white vehicles in the countryside is just absurd. Now, this is a suburb. Now, I have no interest whatsoever in Cornwall, none, 0, other than 15 years, 20 years really, 20 years of kind of an interesting journey. I myself stepped aside of consumerism, materialism a long time ago because it gave me energy to put my head and whole spirit is the key word, into theoretically useful things that are only intended as universal, well thought through benefits into various sectors of society. And everything failed. And that's not because I'm a loser, that's because I live aside and I'm very attuned to the mood, the real mood of people underneath. That's because I lived most of my 20s and 30s, I lived travelling all over the world and just people watching. That was my hobby. That kept me kind of occupied. Underneath, so many people are just like living in fear because I know it's not an easy word for most people, but it is the right word. It's in Stendhal, the book, the wonderful, funny book, Scarlet and Black. The bourgeois trap people are in. They live in such fear. If they lose the status, the things, even, we are told the younger people basically they live for experience. But these experiences cost quite a lot of money. So if they lose their ability to take part in society at that level, then they know deep down, oh my God, I'm fearful I'm going to lose how other people may admire me. Blah, blah, blah. Could go on about that forever. All sorts of social scientists kind of understand this, but very few of them actually communicate it properly. So I just got a load of writing and stuff, and some is groovy and seemingly off at a tangent, but no, it's all the same. It's just about Montaigne wrote about how to live. Now, the funny thing is, video, going online, blah, blah, blah. Now, I've basically never even used TikTok, and I'm not going to. Not because I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I do know I'm interested in, basically, how would I reach a 25 to 30-year-old version of myself? I know I was completely stuck. I was one of the leading atomized, self-assured people in my 20s, and it was kind of a disaster. I'm not ungrateful for every experience and pretty dark period I went through, blah, blah, blah. Ancient history, I've never been back there. I'm lucky. I found the cure about 30 years ago. It's in my ralphskism.com. A few weeks ago, I tried to focus on, there's one called My Wonky Bonce. Well, there's a couple. And I need to write that out properly because I know it worked. I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. I know it worked. I'm a very clean living person. I've basically hardly ever drunk anything for about 30 years. My head's always screwed on at 5:30 a.m. Now, that's intimidating, people. Oh, to be me, you have to get up at 5:30. No, you don't. But it's like, I enjoy that. Just figuring, what are the ingredients that lead to a healthy psychology? It's as simple as that. But you also have to have fun bits. You have to have fun crusades, and I've kind of had several ongoing. And I have no embarrassment gene anymore. I was a completely normal person 20 years ago and had an embarrassment gene. No. We've got to give away all of that for the sake of the next generation. I'm interested in, well, there's two kind of audiences, I guess, although you should never second guess your audience. I suppose really the 50 to 60-year-old, mainly mothers of my generation, like just assisting them. I know most of them have got no idea what to say about their children's environment if they're children between 20 and 30. I speak with many. I've spoken at great depth and length and tried to enjoy speaking with 100 over the last 6 months. Stopping by a wall or by a stile or on the coastal path, trying to chat really. And I know the great majority are absolutely stuck. So it's like, really it's material for them because they then have to filter it and put it into bite-sized chunks for the real intended recipient. Let's say the 25 to 30-year-old. I picked up Eric Fromm to have or to be maybe age 25. And just coming across the title was useful. It's slightly reset my head. Good stuff. So, I have no fear. I know. I think we've gone through a period where 5 years ago, 10 years ago, your average 25-year-old might have the attitude, well, if you're an old fucking fuddy-duddy and you're not even going to bother with TikTok, you're nothing to me. No, I think they've kind of evolved through that. It's like, if they have to do an extra couple of clicks and come and look at some of my as yet not very good YouTube videos, which I have not really any interest in. I only put stuff on YouTube because it's the quickest way to actually share the points I try to make, and I've got to spend the next year going back over a load of material and just doing it in a slightly better way, a little bit more poetically, a little bit more kind of, although it is all, you see, I literally live on the hoof. Today I have to go up somewhere, to go to a better, I have to go, the weather's terrible, I've got to work with the weather, I want to go to my only favourite other person spot tomorrow morning, I've got to figure on a bath in a river tonight or tomorrow morning. I've got to do that when it's dark, otherwise people will go, ooh, ooh, ooh. I've got to go somewhere in an hour and clean out, because I've had a flu, and like I haven't kept up with my normal cleaning arrangements, although they are so minor. I've got to go and do that for an hour, air the van out a bit, blah, blah, blah. So I'm actually too busy. I don't like to say that, as I've put in an audio a week or two ago, right? But between all of that, I live totally on the hoof, and it's more efficient just to stick my vocalizations of various things into a video, and I can then put the phone on the dashboard and it doesn't use up too much battery if I'm uploading it to YouTube. The one word I would hate anyone to say of me, you're a YouTuber. No, I've monitored many people trying to speak into the public conversation for 5 years, and I encounter nobody who has any real keys, useful thoughts on how to, using the Montaigne phrase, how to live well, despite the worst pains, the worst bleaknesses, the worst lonelinesses, all of it. This is constant. I never have grandiose feelings. I never have any kind of up, down. I am just totally constant. In fact, the one thing in life, I mean, whilst we've had 25 years of all sorts of terrible voodoo witch doctors coming along with, oh, if you take that supplement, and then we've got the whole kind of, if you practice that kind of yoga, mindfulness, whatever. This whole thing is voodoo witch doctory. 45 years ago, somebody put into the public domain, it was slightly fashionable, the concept of biorhythm. And I've realised over the last 20 years, that may actually be a kind of thing. I notice my own energy is a better word. Energy, not mood, because my mood is just keep on keeping on. It's as simple as that. But my kind of spirit, my life force, that's the best word. Avoid all of the other words unfortunately, they are all, it all started with Deepak Chopra and people like this. They're all lost witch doctors and witch doctoresses. Biorhythms, it's just, I notice my energy just most of the time throughout a year. Every week or two there'll be a slight dip, and then 3 or 4 days later there'll be a slight elevation. I actually think but even thinking in terms, you see, you can't change it. And we have literally, not more than an industry, we have a whole mentality that we should harness and adjust the natural, evolved, you could say, if you're a religious or a believer, as I believe in something, but I believe anybody who says they know what it is basically has a narcissistic personality disorder. It's unknowable, right? But, and I try not to, I'm only using the word narcissistic as a parody because everybody's been using it for 10 years. It's a meaningless word. Words like that should be saved for those who are 100 kilometres up in, I think it's on Broadmoor Hospital, who've committed terribly tragic, violent crimes on others. And the narcissism, yes, may be looked at as a cause, blah blah blah. Otherwise, these words just simply shouldn't be used. Now that's going to be too much for most people, because I've seen over 20 years, I've had an inside view, almost at a kind of level of semi-government policy, being somebody who took something into society that government or Whitehall realised this is important, it's going to actually help a lot of people, blah blah blah. Ancient history for me, but I can objectively monitor what the more thoughtful people have been saying in the public arena, and this using labels, which are more often than not ultimately used as weapons. You've got Asperger's. I've even had that said to me a few times, like 10 years ago. Well, I developed, no, 15. I kind of do, well, no, they don't say it like that. It's like, oh, I know somebody, my ex-boyfriend, my ex-partner has really bad Asperger's, and I'm his friend in this journey. And I think you might be a little bit like that. I've actually had some awful woman say that. And it's like, excuse me, what have you, love, ever done that's risky in the public domain? I personally did a few things that I didn't intend to do, but I realised that's what a real taking part is. So many people, rather than put that energy into such things as that, have put that energy into really snide, little judgmental, and these are, it's always people who have only ever been in your company for a few hours, who, and I'm afraid to say, it's probably changing now, it's men as well, but it started all with women about 15 years ago. It's absolutely terrible, and I actually feel sorry for them, because they're not able to fully experience another human being in the round, everything about them over a period of time, which is the only way we learn. That's how we learn about our real society, not the little version in a box which they neurotically try and control with these totally intellectually vacuous labels, which are pointless, because actually they're generally talking about things which you can't fix anyway. I mean, we all know we can fix a bad cut that has got infected with antibiotics. Great. But you can't fix, oh, you're somewhere on the spectrum. Oh, you know, it's absurd. It's the ultimate rabbit hole. Get out of that rabbit hole. Yeah, it's just ways to live with everybody fucking chipping away at you, which never bothers me in the slightest. Although I do have one person who chipped away at me a bit over a year ago, just over a year ago. That does bother me, because we need our genuine, close humans, and so many people don't have them. There is a real thing ongoing here, just purely aside, it'll probably not come to anything, but I am going to be trying to emotionally support somebody, a woman I kind of appreciate. She became Vanish, and I hadn't spoken to her for about a year, in fact, maybe 2 years. As usual, the digital communication, a disaster. We had an affinity purely over me sort of advising her how to let go and truly take on Van. Well, I called her about something about an environmental project out of the blue, and I'm surprised she even picked up her phone. And she tells me she's got a cancer diagnosis. I think she's only about 35, maybe 40 at the oldest. So, well, but she has let go into this very, very middle class, on the face of it, woman. She's let go onto this. She's got I met her kid and was just so thrilled with him. So it's like she is actually the notional audience. How to let go fully into this. Even let go of our viewpoint about our perfect health that we must be striving for. No, it comes when you let go of that. Anyway, all those kinds of things I'm bloody good at. I know it. And I listen. I've been kind of searching, not for my own solutions, but for 7 or 8 years, what has everybody else got to say? And they've got nothing to say. You know, Deepak Chopra's got nothing that's going to help you. And you're all bought into it, thinking he will. And then there are so many thousands and thousands of other guru-ish types The women do it in a much more kind of, well, I have the special connection spiritually to this, and blah, blah, blah. Now, I knew personally quite a few women like that. They all went very sour in 2020. In other words, their spirituality, their kind of openness to everything, as soon as a bug comes along, which made us all think about an earlier death than we had in mind, they all closed down. I know quite a lot. Not one of them said anything bright-eyed. Hey, this is a chance for us to start again. Think about who we really are. Take time out. It's great. You know, it's sad. I'm not going to go into that. But not one of them did. In other words, the mindfulness, spirituality, etc. didn't work. That's just a simple fact. Nothing to do with vaccinations or anything like that. The Zen, it all comes down to centeredness and peace inside. And whatever workshop or preaching or person they've been following for years often didn't work. Come the test. Well, do you have genuine centeredness and peace in your soul? No, quite the reverse. I saw in a very, very rural, comfortable, beautiful part of Britain, actually, the marches near a place called Prestine, Kington, on the borderline, almost nobody actually, except for one woman I knew who did Illicit Girls Riding Club blog.blogspot.com with me, except for her. Everybody else was just like, they just couldn't handle it. Well, come the next problem, which may be a true financial crisis, we haven't had one yet, or a true blah blah blah, everyone's going to mentally collapse again. Well, that's what I'm actually interested in, how to help people. And this, which is an irony, I picked that up in a local natural store yesterday. You know, this is like, I've got this ironically because these are the problems. Protect, you know. And all, yeah, I've been monitoring this stuff for a decade or more, actually. It doesn't work. It may appear to work. Anyway, that's what I want to communicate about. So, there we go. But I've got to get some better videos out that I made, a shorter and more succinct, about things like for young people. What is loneliness? And like, how do you really keep yourself going okay? Right, there we go. Blah, blah, blah. But I got so much to do, and I simply need a bit of funding so that I've got... Oh, yes. I mean, you see, this is the most important thing in my life. That's broken, but if I've got that taped there, as long as that little orange light is showing and the laptop doesn't actually usually charge up from my car battery, which is there, my spare one. Remarkably, it is this morning. Normally the laptop, for some reason, uses a hell of a lot more energy than plugging a phone in. And if I plug my laptop in for a few minutes, because you can't do anything, you can't do enough on these phones. Within a few minutes, it's telling me that the voltage is so low, it's not charging anymore. The bad thing about that is then I can't use that battery to start the vehicle, so I've got to be so careful. I have two just about adequate car batteries that I swap over, and it takes a lot of my time and energy, which I don't resent. I mean, every time, 3-4 times a day, I move a battery from the footwell into the engine. Now, that's exercise for me. It's actually good for my body, but it's like I need to be in a space for a while, for a few months, where I just now collect better and edit. The one thing I can't do, I can't edit videos. It takes a lot of battery power in the laptop. I've got loads that need just improving, editing, whatever. Things like that. But it's mainly the writing. And bizarrely, as a sort of rejected, sad person, I've just been scribbling along. When the moment comes, that's the important thing. And I've actually got some quite good poetry that I want to just redo some of this. Blah, blah, blah. And some of it's juvenile, but this one is good. Where is it? Is it that one? Yeah, that one. You see, I want to do that vocally, because it's much more. It's really no this one here. It's really important. It's really important to read poetry. Right? Yes, that one. That one. I'm going to do the vocal version of that. Rinziach heading west. The oil slick surface tension slips away. Meaning there's so much tension in this area because it's a military area. Breathing becomes again almost toxic vapor free. East from there and all her coast anti-clockwise to where last June. Yes, I don't need to ask. I arrived here the first day I saw here. Yes, I don't need to ask. The Bibby Stockholm. I arrived in Falmouth and there's a great big ship there with, or barge, horrible colour, like a health and safety vest. I didn't even need to ask. That's it, isn't it? That's the famous horror ship, the Bibby Stockholm. Falmouth, wandering, swivel-eyed psychos of the afternoon, be careful, there are many. One word, all the east, I feel the shrapnel of the military. West, so it's okay, even if performative merms eye shrapnel a fair part of the day. But hang on, if I must, one big bonus. Europeans I trust to say what they mean what they say. All my life, my warm wood burner, a real conversation, even an incompatible wife, sadly. Landloping here, west of military. So this is something I wrote when I went 30 kilometres to the west. Landloping here, west of military. Check out Rinsey, even if the superstore roundabouts are lifelong to any human antipathy. Many Europeans I can encounter in a day, 3 or 4, maybe more. Home, you could almost say. New dawn, new day. Straight away, her look. It was that null, her glance aside, never to be found if sought, beyond knowing anything and any tension. Peace, nothing, and blah. I want to do this better, but it's like I've even got to think. Now, to me, it says there's a null in here. I can't remember who it was now. But yeah, I love it when I encounter it. It's so rare. Somebody who has no agenda, who feels quietly maybe even oppressed by life. Maybe they feel they're not an attractive person or whatever. I became attuned to this look about 20 years ago. I so rarely see it. And I encountered somebody. I'll remember who it was, because I like that. That keeps me happy. Remembering there is somebody I encountered or just saw who had this look of, it's not joy, it's not bliss, but it's not being sucked in, and probably being quite lonely, not being sucked into the great big ego fest that it's all become. Right, I've got to stop now because this has used tons of bloody gigabytes, which I don't have spare. There we go. Oh, 28 minutes, that's not good.